Hello everyone, so today we're going to be taking a step back from ranked and actually looking at a bit of a more fun deck that I would probably play in casual over the ranked competitive scene, and that is Gaia the Fierce Knight. Now, I'm not saying you can't play this deck in ranked. If you're a masochist or if you're in anything below sort of Diamond Platinum range, be my guest. But if you want to actually just sit back and have a little bit of fun with one of your favorite monsters in the game, Gaia the Fierce Knight, then you're going to want to be playing this deck in casual. It is definitely a whole lot of fun. How does the deck work? Well, as you can probably tell from the interruption lineup, we sort of want to go second, and we're going to be using our Spiral Fusion in order to basically beat our opponent's ass. So this allows you to fusion summon a Gaia, the Dragon Champion, which will then have an additional attack on a monster. It's going to have 5,200 attack points. It's going to be pretty big. It's going to attack a bunch of times, and hopefully it's going to win you the game in one fell swoop. Now that's a really gross oversimplification of the deck. You're going to have to watch the gameplay. We're going to do a big detailed deck profile at the end, so if you're maybe not too familiar with some of these Gaia cards and some of the newer ones, I say new, these cards are not new. But if you're maybe not so familiar with Gaia the Fierce Knight and you're not too sure why it is sort of built this way or how it plays, stick around for the deck profile at the end. It'll explain everything card for card. In terms of the lineup, of course, we are preparing more for going second than we are going first, because our objective is, as I said, to win in a single turn using Gaia. So you're running your Lightning Storms, your Droplets, your Infirms, your Maxis, you're really focused on going second here. Now, this is as pure as I can possibly make it while still allowing it to function. So yes, we are playing Branded Fusion, but the reason we're playing Branded Fusion is that the entire Gaia package relies upon having a level 5 dragon in your hand or in your graveyard, which Branded Fusion can facilitate through the Lobelion, as well as also being able to put a Mirror Jade on your field. So not only are you setting up your Gaia, but you're also setting up a Mirror Jade, which is definitely going to dramatically enhance the feeling of the deck. We're not playing Alibur, we're not playing any sort of Despia nonsense, we're not playing the Branded in Red. We did have the Branded in Red in here, which you can play if you really want to play things like the Guardian Chimera. Be my guest, I'm not going to stop you. You can maybe throw that in here. There is an open slot that I was sort of debating on what to do with anyway, so if that's what you want to fill it with, be my guest. But yes, I'm not going to ramble too much to start here. Watch the gameplay, get a feel for how the deck works, and then watch the deck profile at the end where I'm going to explain everything in depth. And if you like having looks at sort of classic decks like this that you want to play in casual, or even more competitive takes on other sort of fan favorite decks like Buster Blader is one we cover a lot, Dark Magician, Red Eyes, Blue Eyes, you name it, we've got it. If you want to see content like that, feel free to subscribe and like the video. Every wee bit of interaction helps, and we are getting closer and closer to our 1,000 subscriber goal. If you want to get in and chat to me or chat to other people or participate in Converged gaming events, which have started as of December and will only develop as we get into the future, feel free to hop into the Discord, which is where all of that is organized, to find out more. And without further ado, let's get into the gameplay. Alrighty, so getting into replay number 1 here. Now this one is a little bit of a throw from our opponent. They didn't exactly have a lot of options for stopping us. So we're going to go Artillery Catapult Turtle, which is going to summon out a level 5 dragon from our deck, being the Curse of Dragon. It gets negated by an effect veiler, unfortunately, and we don't have any more plays at hand, so we decide to just pass turn and give it to our opponent. Now remember, we are playing in casual, so our opponent didn't have anything to play. It happens. Now this is more so going to be, I wanted to show this one off because it's actually going to show you the mechanics of how the deck works. We're going to activate Galloping Gaia just because Artillery Catapult Turtle can not only tribute itself but any other monster, and what it does is it summons a Gaia the Fierce Knight monster or a level 5 dragon. The idea is that you want to have a level 5 dragon in your hand or in your graveyard, and you want to summon Gaia the Magical Knight that will re-summon the dragon that is in your graveyard or in your hand. This Curse of Dragon, when summoned, searches your deck for a Gaia related spell or trap card. We're going to grab Spiral Fusion here. Our opponent goes Droll and Lockbird, but we don't really care. We Spiral Fusion, we fuse 2 monsters into the Gaia the Magical Knight of Dragons. Now the only restriction on Spiral Fusion is you have to summon a Dragon Fusion monster, but if the Dragon Fusion you happens to summon turns out to be Gaia the Dragon Champion, which this name card becomes, then it gains 2600 attack points and can attack up to 2 monsters. We're going to go Spiral Fusion again into Albion the Branded Dragon, and at that stage our opponent scoops it up. So I wanted to show this one off just so that I could demonstrate how the Gaia, the Magical Knight of Dragons, actually works. What that card does is basically you can sacrifice 2600 attack points in order to pop a card in the field, and if it destroys a monster by battle, it can boost its own attack up by 2600. So having the additional 26 is very specific, and it's specific for a reason. So that's a demonstration of how the deck works under ideal-ish scenarios. It wasn't exactly great for either party involved, but now we're going to get into maybe some more competitive duels. Let's get in there. Already getting into game 2 here. This is going to be a bit of a it's going to be a bit of a quick one, but it is definitely against a much more powerful opponent here. We are still playing in casual, so they may not play this optimally, bear that in mind, but they are playing a much stronger deck here. Drawing into the double quick launch here. I mean, he may be in casual, but he's obviously one of the best. Opening up double quick launch like that. So he's going to go Chaos Space here, grabbing one of the Chaos Dragons, ditching the Absol Rider, using that to grab himself a Rocket Synchron. He's going to link 2 off into Dragunity Knight Romulus. Romulus, of course, going to search the deck for Dragon Ravine here so he can Foolish Burial any of his dragons from deck to grave after discarding a card. He's going to ditch the White Dragon to send the the Black Metal Dragon. Summons out Rocket Synchron to resurrect the Absol Rider Dragon, and then synchros off into the Borreload Savage Dragon, equipping onto itself from the graveyard the Striker Dragon to give it a singular Omni Negate. Now again, not the most powerful board in the world, but it is certainly not nothing. So we have a pretty solid hand here when it comes to Buster Blader. We're going to activate Gateway the Chaos, which will search for a Gaia card on activation. Gaia then, the Magical Knight, will summon the Curse of Dragon from hand, which will then grab Galloping Gaia from deck. Now, the reason we didn't grab Spiral Fusion is we didn't have any more targets for it for a start. It probably would have still been a better play. But Galloping Gaia has a couple of effects. One of the big ones is that your opponent cannot activate cards or effects during the battle phase. So that's part of why we picked that card up in particular. We're not too worried about his cards here because we know we're going to activate Spiral Fusion. We knew he was going to negate that, but that's why we have Instant Fusion in the deck as a backup. Instant Fusion is going to be able to summon out the Curse of Dragon, the Magical Knight Dragon, which will then, when summoned, add back a Gaia-related spell or trap card back to our hand from the graveyard. That was the plan anyway. Unfortunately, our opponent has other ideas here. They're going to go Droplet, sending their Striker to the graveyard to negate our Curse of Dragon. Luckily for us, though, we still have some options here. We're going to link 2 off into Predaplant Verte Anaconda, which is of course going to send from the deck to the graveyard Branded Fusion, and we all know where that ends up going here, getting rid of Verte Anaconda and Albaz for the Mirror Jade, and that was pretty much game. Simple as that. So we played through a few interruptions there, you know, a Droplet plus a Borreload Savage Dragon, which is pretty nice, and we still had a ton of advantage on our field. You'll love to see it. Very, very solid replay from ourselves there. Let's get into game number 3. Alrighty then, game 3 here. We're actually going first, and this is the only time we open up Lightning Storm, which is ironic. We're going to grab the Gaia the Magical Knight from our deck here, summon it, and we're going to now summon from our hand the Curse of Dragonfire. Now this is a slightly different one to the other level 5 dragon, and you might not see this one played an awful lot, but this one, the reason we use it as a backup is not only can it clear out the field spell, and the reason we destroy our own field spell is to make Lightning Storm live if everything goes wrong, but it can also, using its own effect, fusion summon. So we no longer have to rely upon Spiral Fusion. Spiral Fusion would be stronger, yes, I get it, but this is a nice backup option just in case your opponent has any way to stop that from happening. So it looks like our opponent is playing Quipworts, which is a problem. This deck is always very infuriating. I believe there is a misplay or 2 here. We destroy the Scout, but he has a second Summoner's Art. I don't understand why all the best players in the game are in casual, but you know, here they are. He's going to activate a second Scout, then adding a card from his deck to his hand. He's going to activate a second Quipwort in his Pendulum Zone so we can start getting the ball rolling. He isn't big enough to get over our defense, but I don't know if you noticed, we don't exactly have a lot of attack points here. There is Skill Drain as well as Requilpiate, whatever this card is called. So our opponent now having Skill Drain on board means his monsters are boosted all the way back up. We are going to switch our Gaia to attack mode here, but we're going to check the top cards of our deck just to see what we can fish out here. Hopefully pick up something useful. We do have a couple of options here. We are going to go for the Branded Fusion because it's going to set up our plays. Branded Fusion then will use Gaia as well as Albaz to summon out Mirror Jade, the Iceblade Dragon, and we have an idea here. What we're going to do is he's going to use his trap card. That's fine, it doesn't matter. We're going to use Mirror Jade's effect now to basically send Albion from the extra deck to the graveyard for some follow-up. We know it's negated. Now we're going to swing in. So his The way the quill ports work is they're protected against things that have a lower level than them, but that is only counted while they're on the field. And skill drain, of course, only affects things in the field, so we sacrifice our Mirror Jade, so now we have no cards on the field. We use Lightning Storm, get rid of all the back row, and now during the end of this turn, the Mirror Jade is also going to destroy his monster, which sets us up very, very nicely. We are going to use the Artillery Catapult Turtle. I believe we do misplay a little bit here. We revive the Curse of Dragonfire, it will then fusion summon into Gaia. I believe we use the effective Gaia here when we shouldn't have, yeah. So don't do that part of it. But everything else on that turn was perfect. But yes, no, so because we were a level 7 and he was a level 8, he wasn't affected by our effect. Again, wasn't paying too much attention to it. We should have known that. We would have been able to stop this scout. This is like his third scout. This is nuts. I don't understand how he opened every copy of Scout, but that's fine. He's going to Pendulum Summon out here a bunch of his big monsters. He's going to try and take us out, but again, our defense is nothing to be scoffed at. 2100 is a really nice point for your defense to be at. Spiral Fusion then, of course, being a brilliant card to draw into. Catapult Turtle bringing out another copy of Gaia. Gaia then reviving Curse of Dragonfire yet again. We're going to use Spiral Fusion, this time to fuse away our monsters into the level 5 fusion. Now, we actually made a mistake here. We were expecting to be able to go into Gaia the Dragon Champion again, but that's our second copy. We only have 2. And we only have 3 cards left on our extra deck. So we were sort of making these plays without even realizing that we didn't have enough cards in our extra deck to actually make this work. So here we summon out Lebellion. Luckily, we summoned it in attack mode out of habit. We're going to take out his monster here because, again, we're still big enough to do that. That's fine. It's going to go to turn 6 here. We're not in a fantastic position because we don't really have our extra deck to use in this situation. That may be why you want to step up the number of Gaia the Dragon Champions you're using. I don't know if we're playing 3 and potentially banished one of them. No, we're only playing 2. That's why. That's fine though, he's going to take out our monsters, but again, our Lebellion itself is far too big for our opponent to be dealing with. I don't know why they don't have any sort of extra deck shenanigans to be using against us, but I'm not going to question it. We're going to go in the battle phase, take out his monster again. Our opponent, we can tell at this point, is getting a little bit fed up of the fact that he can't actually do anything to get over us right now. The Scout paying another 800 points to search for another one of his monsters. He could, of course, have Tribute Summoned there. I don't know why he didn't, but he decides just to give it up. A very rough match. Very rough match, back and forth. It did show off a lot of the qualities of the deck, which is why I wanted to show this. But you're seeing here the limitations of the deck as well. It really isn't all that strong. It isn't. We're just trying our best with the resources we've got. We were able to eke out a win here. I think that's just because our opponent was a little bit fed up. But regardless of why we had won, let's get into the deck profile and we'll talk about why the deck is the way it is. Alrighty, so here is the deck list. Now, first things first, like we always do, we're going to take out the fluff. We got that double Maxi, we've got the triple Lightning Storm, we've got the double Call by the Grave, double Droplet, triple Infinite Impermanence. I believe that is it. Okay, so that is 12 flex spots. You can do whatever you want with those 12 slots, go nuts. It's entirely up to you. This is the core of the deck. Now, this deck, like it sort of showed in the gameplay, it has a lot of weaknesses. It takes a lot of resources to set up, and in terms of going first, you don't have a lot of options. Mirror Jade does help that, but you really don't have a lot going first, so you really want to be going second. And even going second, the deck itself isn't amazing at breaking boards. It's decent at it, but it really is lacking a lot of options. So, having a look at the main deck, how does it actually work? It is all centered around Gaia plus a level 5. That is the deck. That is how the main deck works. So it's Gaia the Magical Knight. When this card is summoned, you will summon a level 5 dragon from your hand or from your graveyard. So having one of these cards in hand or graveyard is very important. Now that is also not very consistent, so you want to be having that set up. We do have a few ways of increasing that consistency, which we'll talk about in a second, but then you want to summon one of these two. Now, how does that lead into anything significant? Well, the Cursed Dragon, when summoned, will search your deck for Spiral Fusion. If you already have Spiral Fusion, it might search your deck for Galloping Gaia, but it basically enables your fusion by searching directly for your fusion spell. Curse of Dragonfire is a backup option in case you no longer have any copies of Spiral Fusion to search for, and will, using its own effect, enable a fusion summon. So it is just basically an alternative way of conducting your fusion summon without sacrificing it. Also, another level 5 dragon increases the consistency with which you'll be opening your combo, so it is worth just having the additional one in there just in case it comes up. Then you have the Artillery Catapult Turtle. This card will basically sacrifice a monster on your field, including itself, whatever one you want, and will summon out from your deck either Gaia or a level 5 dragon, so whichever basically suits your fancy at the time, that would be best. It basically enables you to search for any one of these cards, which is great. That is pretty much the main deck. Soldier Gaia the Fierce Knight is almost like an OTK and protection tool, so you contribute a dragon fusion monster on your field to special summon this guy, and then on your turn then you contribute him again to grab a Gaia from your deck. So if you've used up your Gaia the Magical Knight of Dragons effect and it's at 0 attack points, well, you tribute it to summon Gaia. Gaia on your turn will grab you Gaia the Magical Knight, and then you restart your whole play. This card isn't mandatory. I don't think I used it once for an OTK, but I haven't actually used it for that protection ability since I put it into the deck. So this card, it's not mandatory, but it is kind of, again, it's thematic, it's cool, and it definitely does hold the place within the function of the deck, so I would include it, but it's not mandatory. Great. Now, what are the next tools then for Gaia to make this a little bit more consistent? We have Galloping Gaia, the field spell. Galloping Gaia, the field spell, basically, if you have either a Gaia monster or a level 5 dragon in your hand, Galloping Gaia will allow you to search for the other. So if you have Gaia, grab a dragon. If you have a dragon, grab Gaia. Pretty much as simple as that. It also prevents your opponent from using cards or effects during the battle phase, so long as you control Gaia the Magical Knight of Dragons or any Gaia the Dragon champion in general. So again, very powerful card, good searcher, and it also enables a little bit of battle phase protection then, which is nice. Not everyone reads that part of the card, so you may catch a few people off guard. You also have Gateway to Chaos, which when activated will search your deck for Gaia the Fierce Knight, which is just an additional search for Gaia, which of course is very good. And Terraforming is in your deck to search for both, as well as Pot of Prosperity. So it's not entirely inconsistent. The deck is not bad by any means in that regard. You're usually going to be able to go into your play. It's just the actual potency of the play that is the problem. You also have Instant Fusion in here, basically to summon out Curse of Dragon, the Magical Knight of Dragon, which will, when fusion summoned, grab one of your Gaia cards from your graveyard, which is handy. It definitely does come up, so that is a nice card to have in there. You can also just fusion summon this using regular means, but the Instant Fusion being a one-card method of getting it is also very good, as well as giving you guessed it, another level 5 dragon to play with. So yes, Instant Fusion I think definitely holds a place in this deck. The last part of the deck is of course Branded Fusion and Fallen of Albaz. This guy's here for his name. And Branded Fusion is used to summon out Mirror Jade the Iceblade Dragon, as well as putting a level 5 dragon in your graveyard. So Branded Fusion, of course, send Albaz and a dragon to the grave to summon out Lebellion. Lebellion discard a card to shuffle back Albaz and himself for the Mirror Jade. Now you've got a Mirror Jade as well as a Curse of Dragon of some shape or form in your graveyard. You can still hopefully then conduct your plays. The only problem with that is the Gaia the Magical Knight itself has no inherent special summon. It's a normal summon, so you'll have to really rely on your Artillery Catapult Turtle in order to continue to follow up on that same turn, or potentially simply setting it up for the next turn. So again, it's good synergy, but it's not perfect. It does have its holes, unless you're going second, in which case, yeah, you can just summon this guy pretty much. But if you're going first, you're usually going to end on Mirror Jade or Gaia. Usually not both, but sometimes both, if you open up a really cracked hand. But again, even if you don't, for your turn 2, you're almost always able to go into Gaia just fine, as well as your Branded, so you've got plenty of options there. In terms of the extra deck, it is basically just standard Branded as well as standard Gaia. Curse of Dragon, like I said, when summoned, is going to grab back from your graveyard a Gaia card. Sky Galloping Gaia, the Dragon Champion. You don't need this card. I only have 2 of it in here because I happened to pull a bunch of it from the packs. I've yet to summon this card. It can be a good option for when your opponent's playing defensively, because basically it changes the battle position of a monster it battles. When it's summoned, it would also search for Spiral Spear Strike, so if you want to include that card in your deck, you absolutely can. But I never summoned this card to utilize that search, so I actually just removed the spell card from the deck because it wasn't ultimately all that powerful. So you can cut that card. You can cut it completely if you want, or you can bring it down. Maybe you want to play a third copy of this. I would definitely recommend playing a third copy of this. I just don't have 3. So that is definitely an option. And this is, of course, the main boss monster of the deck. Basically, it has 2 main effects. One, you can remove 2600 attack points from this card in order to destroy a card in your opponent's field. And when it destroys a monster by battle, it gains 2600 attack points. And that's basically permanent until you use its own effect. So the idea is you destroy something by battle, boost yourself up to 52, and then you can sacrifice 2600 of those attack points to destroy a card. That's also where the effect of Spiral Fusion comes in boosting your attack points by 2600. It basically means that your Gaia has a free pop, or is just an absolute offensive machine. So that's the Gaia sort of fusion engine, and then the rest of this branded stuff is fairly straightforward. You got the double Lobelion, double Mirror Jade, Albion, Titaniclad, and the Verte Anaconda, as well as the new Alba Lunatus, which will, when sent to the graveyard off of the effect of Mirror Jade, search your deck for Spiral Fusion for your next turn, which is kind of handy. It doesn't come up super often, but it definitely is a play that can be done. But yeah, that's pretty much the deck. Is this the best way of running Gaia? Probably not. I would say this is probably the best way of running at least relatively pure Gaia. It is not a fantastic deck. You are not going to see major rank success with this, but it is definitely a whole lot of fun to bring in a casual and maybe to play against your friends. Or I would definitely, if you're a fan of Gaia, if you're a fan of the original anime, it is definitely a deck worth looking at, a deck worth picking up. And who knows, maybe you'll find something that I didn't, maybe you'll play it better than I can, maybe you'll have some tips to share with me. But that is pretty much the deck as far as I can see it. If you guys have any suggestions, any changes you want to make, I know that there's going to be a lot of people who want to throw in like Alibur, there's people going to want to throw in all sorts of stuff. By all means, you run it your way, you run it however you want to. This is just how I've been doing it to keep it relatively pure. But yes, before I bend your ear, I'm going to be signing off here. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like the video if you did actually like what you were seeing, if you like the deck or the idea. And if you have any suggestions or anything in general you want to say, throw it in the comments below, and I'll see you on the next one.